Hi everyone. Good morning. How's everyone today? So, welcome to our press conference on the start of mandatory compliance with Republic Act number 119 or the Child Safety in Motor Vehicles Act. I am Daphne Marcelo. I am the project manager of ImagineLaw's Road Safety Project. And together with our partners from Mind the Gap, Vera Files, Bubble Up Kids, we are here today with our government agencies, Transportation Office, the Department of Transportation, the Department of Trade and Industry, to talk about this thing to hit the Philippine road safety situation next week. And that is the start of the mandatory compliance. So just a few house rules as we have our virtual press conference. As we know, these are unprecedented times. Sana po talaga kung wala lang pandemya, we would be having this in a usual venue, no? We could makikipagkwentuhan tayo at mas maganda yung exchange natin of information about this law. But unfortunately, we have to do this through Zoom. So please take this time to read the reminders on the screen. If you please, if you could please, if you could please change your display name, and will ask my co-hosts to mute themselves. Sorry, I just muted my co-hosts. The change your display name to follow the format: organization, followed by your name and surname. So mine is ImagineLaw-Daphne Marcelo. And a reminder to all, keep microphone on mute. This is to preserve order throughout the press con. Later though, during our question and answer, we'll be allowing you to unmute your microphones. But for now, if during the course of the press con you have an urgent question, you can type it in the chat box. And the team will be moderating your questions and direct them to the addressee later on. You may also later on raise your hand virtually. Pwede nyo pong i-check yung chat function sa Zoom. Merong raise hand function. And when you do ask your question later, please try to keep it short, clear, and relevant to the topic. And you can also, of course, name the speaker to whom the question is addressed. Syempre, this is a media event and we want to expand coverage. So if you're sharing about this press conference on your different media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, kung ano pa meron po kayo, don't forget to use our hashtags, RA11229, hashtag BuckleUpKidsPH, hashtag road safety, hashtag child safety, and hashtag child health. So we are also recording this press conference. So please, let's all proceed. So I already introduced myself. I am Attorney Daphne Marcelo. Aside from being host of today's press conference, I'll also be talking a little bit about what RA 11229 is. I'll be our esteemed speaker for today to deliver the opening remarks. We will have Attorney Mark Steven Pastor, the Assistant Secretary for Road Transport and Infrastructure from the DOTR. We also have with us Mr. Roberto Valera from the Land Transportation Office. He is the Deputy Director for Law Enforcement, and he'll be talking about how this new law will be enforced in the coming weeks, months, and years. Lastly, we'll be joined from the Department of Trade and Industry Engineer Kim Palmes to talk about the standards for these new products entering the market, the child car seats or the child restraint systems. We'll also be hearing from some parents with their pre-recorded messages who also have the same advocacy of protecting child passengers on Philippine roads. Then, as I mentioned, we'll have our Q&A session, and we'll have Miss Chi Laquisha from Verifiles to close the program. Without further ado, let me turn over the floor to Attorney Mark Steven Pastor, the ASEC for Road Transport and Infrastructure of the Department of Transportation. Attorney Pastor?
Yes, I'm host. ImagineLaw Executive Director Attorney Sophia San Luis, DTI BPS Director Neil Tahay, Land Transportation Office Deputy Director Roberto Valera, DOTR Road Safety Head Jarisa May Biscante. Ladies and gentlemen, our friends from the media, magandang umaga po ang lahat. Please allow me to start this morning's event with a quote from Nelson Mandela. History will judge us by the difference that we make in the everyday lives of the children. It's been almost a year since the Department of Transportation signed the implementing rules and regulations of this landmark legislation, which is the Child Safety in Motor Vehicle Act, or Republic Act 11229. This is not merely in compliance with our country's commitment to international laws, but it comes from our core duty as parents or actors of this generation to secure the future of the posterity ahead. All these efforts take root on the government's trust in securing safety and prevent traffic-related incidents in our country. While the country experiences rapid motorization and continuing investments in improving our roads, this government also holistically works on enabling a road safety environment for all. The Child Safety in Motors Act is just one of the many initiatives of the government in the sustained implementation of the Road Safety Plan. The future of the next generation is this government's priority. This administration has witnessed the passage of many laws and programs that demand discipline and order from each and every Filipino. And by this, lies before us is the challenge of changing our ways, which we have been accustomed to for many years and part of our culture even. Changing a way of life also demands a concerted effort from all directions. This challenge is insurmountable without the support of the private sector. And with this, we convey our sincere commendation to the admirable effort and dedication of civil society organizations like Mind the Gap and our friends from the media in echoing the policy to the widest reach possible. It makes the government work more effectively. Civil society walks in partnership with the things we do in the public sector. On another level, to us, parents, adopting the policy to our lives is simply an exercise of due diligence of a father, ordinary care for our children. Ensuring the safety of our children could make a huge difference in our lives. Especially for working parents, we are most of the time preoccupied with all our busy schedules every day. And sometimes, we forget the small things like ensuring the safety of our children as we send them to schools or anywhere while on the road. Sparing such additional safety measure not comparable to the intergenerational costs of any road crash when it happens. A verbal felicitation for this work is relatively small when we see the fruits of our advocacy in the future. We would like to welcome you all today for our virtual press conference, and I hope this will yield effective exchange of information in the furtherance of the RA 1129 and its implementation. On behalf of the Department of Transportation and our hardworking Secretary Arthur P. Tugade, maraming salamat po at muli magandang umaga sa ating lahat.
Thank you so much, Attorney Mark Store, for delivering your message report for this new legislation. And we're really so happy that the Department of Transportation is fully on board with supporting this landmark legislation. So, without further ado, let's get to talking about what this legislation is all about. And it's my pleasure to be speaking about that topic to you today. Once again, for those who are just joining us at this point in the press conference, I'm Attorney Daphne Marcelo, the project manager for ImagineLaw's Road Safety Project. And I'll be talking about the Child Safety in Motor Vehicles Act, or RA 11229. This act mandates the use of child car seats or child restraint systems for securing passengers in motor vehicles. But a little bit about ImagineLaw to this segment of our program. We are a public interest law organization that develops and advocates for evidence-driven policy solutions to enable all people to live healthy, meaningful lives. So we were established in 2016. Since then, ImagineLaw has been helping both the national and local governments enact public health policies. And I guess you're all wondering today, if we're talking about public health, why talk about road safety, right? And really, we talk about road safety as a public health issue or concern because of these numbers. In 2018, a recorded 12,487 people died on Philippine roads. That's about 34% every day, or 1% every day. Meaning, pagkatapos ng press conference natin today, 1% will have died on our roads. Now, the number is even more grim when we talk about children. The Philippine Statistics Authority in 2017 recorded 1,226 children died. People below 14 years old, or at least 3 children a day. And take note, this number has almost doubled since we first began advocating for the passage of this law back in 2017. So, how does a child car seat or a child restraint system protect a child passenger? Adult passengers, such as myself, many of you in our audience, we have the regular seat belt to keep us in place. But by the very design of their bodies, children do not fit seat belts, diba? Their bodies are not yet fully developed. And so we see that when they do try the adult-sized seatbelt, it's either loosely fitting or ill-fitting. And there is that very real danger that in case of a crash, the child will be ejected from the vehicle or hit the side or interiors of that vehicle, which may have sharp objects. And so this is what a child car seat is meant to do, to prevent the child from being ejected from vehicle. And you can see here on the screen one of the more gruesome headlines that made the Philippine news. In 2018, was a vehicle road crash where an Avanza was sideswept by 2 speeding trucks. And there was a 9-month-old boy who was riding that Avanza. He was not properly secured in a child car seat. As a result, he was thrown out of the car he was riding. And you can see that's a photo of first emergency responders found him. Literally found him on the road. And so aside from the child car seat keeping the child in the vehicle, preventing the child from hitting the interior or intruding objects, a child car seat is meant to direct the forces resulting from a crash to the strongest parts of the child's bodies, the hips and the shoulders. This force distributed over a wider area, minimizing the severity of resulting injuries or even death. It protects the head, neck, and spinal cord. You can see here in the CRS I have behind me that the top area has torsion, and that's really to protect the more vulnerable parts of a child's body. And lastly, the child car seat helps the occupant, the child, ride down the crash. So ano bang ibig sabihin ng ride down crash? We have, wait, sorry, I was just told my camera's working, but I hope others can still see me. A child passenger is allowed to ride down the crash with the use of the CRS because it's like when you're catching an egg, right? When an egg is thrown at you, you won't meet it with the same amount of direct force. You will try to cradle. And really, that's what the child car seat does. It cradles the child passenger to shield him or her from the forces of the crash. So in the Philippines, it's very common to hear parents say they will just hold on to their child inside a car. Ikakandong na lang yung anak or ikalong, thinking that perhaps their kalong or their embrace will keep the child safe. But the science says this is not correct. Your embrace is not enough to protect your child. If you can see on the screen the illustration of the physics behind the use of CRS, really. The weight of the child multiplies depending on the speed or the force of the road crash. So if you have a crash that occurs at 50 miles per hour or 80 kilometers per hour, then it would feel like you are carrying a 500-pound baby. If the baby is 10 pounds, that weight will be multiplied by that amount. And this is the same amount of force that you will need to exert to prevent the child from leaving your arms. So unless you're Superman or you have superhero strength, the parent or you will probably not be able to prevent the child from being deployed at that same speed. And 50 miles per hour or yung 80 kilometers per hour, that's very common speed at which vehicles traverse our roads. Speed that's allowed on our national highways for open roads. So it's a fairly common speed at which to travel. And so why the World Health Organization advocates for the use of child car seats? Because this use is seen to reduce infant deaths by approximately 70%, while deaths of small children are reduced by 54%. At these ages from 0 to 12 years old, children are still developing, right? Infants and toddlers do not have the muscular structure to be able to protect themselves from whiplash in case of a sudden stop, in the case of a road crash. I already mentioned that they also do not have the physiological suitability to fit into an adult-sized seat belt. So that's why the WHO greatly recommends CRS use. And here in the Philippines, the national government acknowledges that requiring the use of child restraint systems or CRS or child car seats can reduce the number of road crash related deaths and injuries of child passengers on Philippine roads. So, and on February 22, 2019, the government enacted Republic Act number 11229. The reason why we're all here today, the Child Safety in Motor Vehicles Act. And this addresses the serious public health issue of the rising number of child fatalities due to crashes on Philippine roads. Almost a year later, before the start of this pandemic, or on February 11, 2020, the government issued the implementing rules and regulations. So according to the law and the IRR, mandatory compliance with the law starts next week, February 2021. And mandatory use of CRS or child car seats is seen in the provisions of RA 11229. And really, the law mandates the driver to ensure that a child defined as 12 years old and below with a height 4 feet and 11 inches below is properly secured at all times in a CRS or child car seat. That is one, appropriate to the child's age, height, and weight. And two, approved according to the standards set by the Department of Trade and Industry. And so there's reference to the standards being set in the United Nations Regulations number 44 or 129, its evolving standards, and other international standards. But again, this is a question we usually field, right, when we have our trainings and our other events and activities for this law. Mandatory compliance starts next week, but the law was passed back a few years ago. So what's been happening since then? So to clarify, the law has already been implemented and is currently being implemented by the different government agencies. Mandatory compliance, which means that the enforcement of the provisions for the driver to secure the child in the car seat will start next week. But here's what's been done so far. The Department of Trade and Industry has issued Department Administrative Order number 20-03, series of 2020. It's the new technical regulations concerning the mandatory product certification of child restraint systems. And later we'll hear Engineer Kim Palmes from the DTI on this topic. We also had the first round of training for fitters. Fitters from the Land Transportation Office will be established at the regional and district levels of the Land Transportation Office to provide assistance to the public. Parents who have a child car seat but require help how to install, how to use, how to maintain this, or even how to select the appropriate child car seat for their child underwent training by our partner, Kids Safe Western Australia, led by Melita Jeffries. And really, I'm quite excited. I was very proud about this because the Land Transportation Office regions actually gamely participated despite the challenges of having this through a virtual platform, Zoom. You can see our LTO Region 1 demonstrating the skills that they built throughout that training. And the LTO is set to undergo 2 or 3 more trainings over this year to add to the ranks of certified fitters. The following week, second week of January, the LTO also underwent training for their enforcers. And really, this special training is needed because this is one of the first laws that will place LTO enforcers, directly in contact with a child. Other laws, that they've been mandated to implement, such as, smoke belching, speed limits, motorcycle helmets, ang kausap nila ay adult. But for the first time, right, there will be children involved. And so our consultant from the Global Road Safety Partnership from Slovenia, Mr. Robert Susanj, gave the LTO best practices on how to approach the enforcement of this new kind of legislation. So that's what's been done so far. And what's left to do is really to continue the rolling out of this new law. And that ends my presentation on what RA 11229 is about. It's my honor to be here with you today. You may reach out to ImagineLaw through any of the channels in front. And at this point, I'd like to turn over the microphone to Sir Bob Valera. Sir Bob Valera is the Deputy Director for Law Enforcement of the Land Transportation Office, and he will be sharing with you more about the law and how to enforce it. So, Sir Bob, are you there?
Yes, good morning, Attorney Duff.
Hi,
and
Sir
to all
Bob.
the participants.
Okay. Hang on, Sir Bob. I'll just pin you for everyone and spotlight you. Okay. Go ahead, Sir Bob.
Yes. Burns, do you have my soft copy?
I have your side,
okay.
Sir. Yes, Sir Bob.
Yes.
Okay.
Could you please turn to page 7? Page 7 for the... I'll start my discussion on the enforcement side with the penalties first.
Okay.
Page 7, please.
There you go, Sir Bob.
There you are. Okay. So we have here, before I discuss the enforcement aspect of the law, I would like to just go over the penalties. So the penalties with regards to non-compliance of the with the standards, as well as the proper utilization of the car seat, the CRS, funding for any driver. That's for the section 7. Okay. For any driver in violation of sections 4 and 5, that's the for section 4, that's mandatory use of CRS, and for section 5, that's the requirement of the law for children to be placed in the rear seats. The violation itself is what we call in LTO as graduated scale of fines and penalties. That means that as you keep on violating the law, the fines and the other accessory penalties increases. So for the first offense, the penalty is 1,000 pesos, and the second offense is 2,000 pesos. And for the third offense, that's 5,000 pesos, and 1 year suspension for the third and succeeding offenses. That is without prejudice also to the demerit point system that will be levied upon the driver for that particular violation. For the information of all of the participants, we have Republic Act 930, which imposes the demerit points for any violations that will be incurred by the driver for during the validity of the driver's license. And for section 6 and 7, by the way, section 6 pertains to the safety standards or the UN regulation 44 and 129. And of course, as well as the requirements of the law for the and for imported car seats ICC stickers.
Sir Bob? So hang on. I think we're just trying to get Sir Bob back on the line. Let me check. So while the team will be calling Sir Bob, I'll try to pick up from where he left off. Okay, so could the Mind the Gap team please contact Sir Bob? In any case, he was talking about the penalties for the people who distribute, manufacture, and import and retail and sell car seats, child car seats that are substandard or that are expired. And the fine is from the range 50,000 to around 100,000 pesos. And if you'll notice, really, this fine is much steeper than the ones that are levied on a driver because these persons, manufacturer, distributor, importer, is holding out these products to the public. And so there's the consumer safety aspect. And the framers of the law took that into consideration when they made the penalties higher. And at this point, I think we have Sir Bob on the line with us. If not yet, I'll just continue to the next part. There. While we're waiting for Sir Bob to join, you could also check the screen. He is right here right now, and Burns will be able to make him a co-host. Hi, Sir Bob.
Yes, I'm sorry.
No worries at all. Okay, go ahead. I discussed the penalties for the manufacturers, but then you can take over from this slide. Go ahead.
Yes. Okay, so again, if you notice the if you notice the requirements with regards to the PS mark as well as ICC sticker are the same requirements that we have for the helmet law. So our enforcers are already used to that. For the standards, that the DTI BPS complies with in regards to the law. And for section 7, we have the prohibition on substandard expired CRS. So the penalty for that is 50,000 up to 100,000 pesos. Okay, next please. Okay, for letter C, any driver who allows the use of substandard or expired child restraint system, there's almost similar penalty for letter A, but there's a difference with regards to the graduated scale of fines and penalties. For the first offense, we have 1,000 pesos. For the second offense, 3,000 pesos. And for the third offense, 5,000 pesos. And suspension again of the driver's license for 1 year. And for the tampering, alteration, forgery, and imitation of the PS mark or the ICC stickers in the CRS, the penalty ranges from 50,000 but not more than 100,000. So those are the penalties for the violations of the different sections with regard of the law. Now let's go now to the guidelines. The next page, please. Guidelines for the enforcement of Republic Act 1122.
So, Sir Bob, are you still there? I think we lost him again. So, at this point, maybe as the Mind the Gap team could contact Sir Bob again, we can proceed to our next speaker. We'll have with us from the Department of Trade and Industry, another instrumental government agency in implementing the provisions of RA 11229, Engineer Luis J. Kimberly Palmes, or Engineer Kim. She'll be talking about the new regulation concerning mandatory product certification of child restraint systems. So after DTI's presentation, we'll call Sir Bob again. So go ahead, engineer. I'll stop sharing. You can share your screen.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, Ma'am Daphne. And then also good morning to the participants and those who are watching our FB Live right now. So I'll start sharing my screen now for a while. Okay. Can you see my presentation, Miss Daphne?
Yes, I can. Go ahead. You're good, Engineer Kim.
Okay. So first off, I will be discussing basically I will be discussing just an overview of this Department Administrative Order or DAO 2003 series of 2020. So this is the new technical regulation concerning the mandatory product certification of child restraint system. So I will be discussing about its references, the scope, the BPS certification scheme, and then how the consumer know that the CRS was certified by the BPS. Next slide. So what is a child restraint system? So for what? So when we mean child restraint system, it is a device capable of accommodating a child occupant in a sitting or supine position. When we mean by supine means lying position. So it is designed to diminish the risk of injury to the wearer in the event of a collision or of a abrupt deceleration of the vehicle by limiting the mobility of the child's body. So by using child restraint system, it will reduce the likelihood of fatal crash among children. So just a brief background of this DAO 2003. So first off, we have the Republic Act number 11229, the Child Safety in Motor Vehicle or the Child Safety in Motor Vehicles Act, as discussed by Ms. Daphne, and then the mandates by the DTI to use standards set forth UNR 44 and 129, and the adoption of the UNRS as PNS by PNS for CRS, and then we have the DAO 2003. So yung DAO 2003 has been effective since August 8, 2020. So it means that all importers shall seek certification from the BPS to sell their products. The next one is we have the references the PNS UNR 44 2018 and then the PNS UNR 129 2018. So the PNS UNR 44 2018 are categorized. The child restraint systems approved under the PNSUNR 44 2018 are categorized into weight groups. However, since experience showed that this resulted in CRS being changed to the next group too early and the children being put in the wrong seat, this group categorization was partially overlapped by PNS UNR 129 2018. So this PNS requires that the child restraint system can be used universally on seats marked with I-seat symbol. So this one is the markings in the PNS UNR 44 2018. So we only have the weight indicated in this approval, and then this one is the sample of PNS UNR 129 2018. So you can see that you have the height of the child and then the weight of the child specified on this product or in this marking. So next one is the scope and the coverage. So the first of is we have the lateral facing caricot. So the lateral facing or caricot means a restraint system intended to accommodate and restrain the child in a supine or prone position with child's spine perpendicular to the median or longitudinal plane of the vehicle. So it is usually used by infants. And then the next one is the reward facing So this means that that the CRS is facing in the direction opposite to the normal direction of the travel vehicle. The next one is the forward facing. So the CRS is facing in the normal direction of the travel vehicle. Then aside from that, we also have combination or rearward forward facing. The next one is the booster caution seat, and the last is the other types for similar purposes or other types of CRS. So booster seats this is a seat with a firm cushion which can be used with an adult seat belt. So next, I will be talking about the Philippine Standard or PS Safety Mark Licensing Scheme. So in BPS, or in the Bureau of Philippine Standards covers two certification schemes. So namely the PS Quality or Safety Certification, and then the other one is the Import Commodity Clearance. In the CRS, we have the Philippine Standard Safety Mark. So this is the Philippine Standard or PS Safety Licensing Scheme is used to a manufacturer um, whose factory quality management system and the product have successfully combined with the requirements of the PNS ISO 9001 and the relevant product standards. So the product standards in this one is the PNS UNR 44 2018 and then the PNS UNR 129 2018. So before we issue the PS license to the manufacturer, we conduct the factory audit that is based or aligned to the ISO quality management system or ISO 9001:2015, and we have to conduct a product audit based on the two PNS. So the PNS UNR 44 and then the PNS UNR 129. So this logo together with the PS license number of the manufacturer shall be seen on the CRS itself. Okay, the next one is the Statement of Confirmation, SOC, or Import Commodity Clearance, ICC, or for imported child restraint systems. So if you have a PS, if the manufacturer bought CRS from a PS licensee manufacturer or company. So the importer shall go to the SOC application. If they don't have any PS license certification, so they have to undergo the ICC application. So for the processing, we have the registration, the application, evaluation, and the approval. So for the registration, they can visit our site bps.dti.gov.ph to get the PCIMS application form for the registration of their accounts. And once they are already registered in the PCIMS, then they can apply for the ICC or the PS, ICC, SOC, or PS, and then the product certification officer shall evaluate the documents, and once the documents have been evaluated and passed, approve, and then it will go into the approval and then the issuance of certificate. Next one is the ICC or the new stickers. So this is the new ICC stickers since December 28, 2020. So this one is also seen in the CRS certified products, CRS certified by the BPS. So we also do have a ICC sticker verification scheme or system. So this is a system proposed and designed by the BPS to protect the integrity of BPS ICC certification marks. So ICC stickers have QR codes that contain information of the certified products. So you just have to download the ICC verification system in the Google Play and App Store. And then once you have downloaded the mobile app, then you can scan the ICC stickers affixed on the product, and the information of the certified product will appear on the mobile app or on your screen. So that's it for DAO 2020, and then for the
Thank you so much, Engineer Kim.
thank you, ma'am.
Engineer Kim, for everyone's information, will still be around later during our question and answer portion. So if you have questions for Engineer Kim, please do park them or feel free to type them in our Zoom chat box. Let me just give Sir Bob Valera one last try if he's still here, but I think he is not able to talk about the guidelines on enforcement. So at this point, I'd like to pick up, sorry, let me just share my screen. Okay, so, and I'm glad to follow the DTI's talk about what types of CRS or child car seats will be approved. And just a quick word to the parents out there on what an appropriate CRS is. It's really one that can accommodate the size of the child. So the age, height, and weight on the screen are guidance, but at the end of the day, what you have to really check is if the child fits well in the child car seat. So if there's no space between the harness and the child's shoulders and other indicators. But generally, we have the rear facing for infants, forward facing CRS for toddlers. And if they're able to grow out of that, they can transfer to a booster seat until they're 12 years old. And so the rear facing is generally designed to cushion the infant's head. The forward facing is what I have here for older children, and the booster seat boosts the child's height so that the adult sized seat belt fits in more well. And we won't go through this slide as much, but we have to ensure that the child is properly secured in the child car seat according to the IRR. Here are the indicators that the child has been properly secured. And these safety standards have been discussed by Engineer Kim. And there's just another question that could also be pressing. The law recognizes that, when it was enacted, there are already parents who have bought child car seats. So what will happen to those prior acquired CRS? So the law allows the use of these child car seats, provided that the LTO has checked and cleared the CRS. And this clearance process will be ongoing until February 2022. You have 1 year to get your existing child car seats cleared by the LTO. And we just have to stand by for the guidelines from the LTO. And really, if you're buying a second-hand CRS, there are also indicators in the IRR that you are encouraged to check. So if it's been involved in a crash, if the shell is cracked, the harnesses are frayed, worn, or damaged, the straps are twisted, the buckle doesn't engage or disengage smoothly anymore, or there are missing parts, then this child car seat should not be used anymore. And just a quick word, even though the Child Safety Motor Vehicles Act will come to be known as the Child Car Seat Law, it's not just mandating the use of a child car seat. There are more prohibited acts. First, we also penalize the failure to properly secure or allowing a child to sit in the front seat of a motor vehicle. May tanong yan, back nung Seatbelts Use Act that was enacted in the 1990s, this prohibition was already in effect. But the difference is, under the Seatbelts Use Act, a child was defined as 6 years old and below. But here under RA 11229, take note, the definition of a child is now 12 years old and below. So with this new law, the prohibitions coverage has been expanded. You are also prohibited from leaving a child unattended in a motor vehicle. And so I don't know whether audience, if you've heard of the horror stories here abroad or even here in the Philippines, yung magulang sinama yung anak ng saglit, nag-mercury lang, nag-grocery, iniwan yung anak sa sasakyan. There are times that the child passenger has suffocated and died from such suffocation. Why? Motor vehicles are prone to overheating, and as you know, pair that with the tropical climate here in the Philippines, and you have a deadly combination. So that's already penalized. And the other prohibited acts were discussed by Sir Bob Valera, such as using substandard or expired CRS, manufacturing, distributing, selling, importing these types of child car seats, and also, and relevant to DTI Engineer Kim's discussion, the tampering, altering, forging, or imitating of the PS mark or the ICC. So I hope that was enough to give you a briefer as to the new mandatory and provisions and prohibitions under the new law. At this point, we would like to be showing you statements of support from parents themselves and advocates of child safety in motor vehicles. TV host and actress couturier, entrepreneur, mother, and road advocate Ms. Regine Tolentino has recorded a message that I will share to all of you today. Let me just check, and please turn your attentions to the screen.
Good morning to everyone here at our virtual press conference, especially to our distinguished resource persons from the LTO, DTI, DOTR, and to all road safety advocates, members of the media, and fellow parents. I am Regine Tolentino, a parent, and I am honored to join you today to show my full support for the upcoming enforcement of RA 11229 or the Child Safety in Motor Vehicle Act. Ilang tulog na lang at February 2 na. Ito na ang hinihintay natin lahat. I hope that the law enforcement of the RA 11229 will be very successful, and I hope that this law will be announced everywhere in the country. Let's let this good law for children's safety on the road be known to all Filipino families. As a parent, I want to do my part to help make this law work for everyone. The car restraint systems, or CRS, are an investment for the life and safety of children, which, as we all know, are priceless. For those who are still looking for a child car seat, choose well and buy one very soon. Make sure to get a car seat with an ICC sticker or a PS mark approved by the DTI, and one that is appropriate for your child's age, height, and weight. The CRS will help secure your child from injury during a collision or sudden stop. A regular seatbelt or a parent's embrace simply cannot provide this type of protection. Finally, I urge parents to comply to keep your child safe and not to just avoid penalties. Isa-isip at isa-puso po nating mga magulang at drivers na bawal sa harap ng kotse ang bata. At i-car seat na yan si baby. Simula na sa Pebrero 2, buckle up your treasures.
So that was our message of support from Miss Regine Tolentino. And we have another message from another parent that I will share with you. From Miss Jolina Magdangal, singer, actress, TV host, mother, and, like all of us, a road safety advocate. Let's turn our attention to the screen for her message.
Finally, I'm so glad at very happy ako talaga na itong RA 11229 or yung Child Safety in Motor Vehicles Act ay talagang mai-implement na rito sa Pilipinas. Bilang ito ang aking advocacy at talagang isa to sa mga paniniwala ko na kailangan natin gawin to. Siyempre, doon sa law, sa RA 11229, straightforward siya eh. Kailangan ang bata na 12 years old and below at yung may height na 4'11 and below, dapat talaga yan naka-car seat. At saka dapat hindi uupo sa harapan. Walang car seat sa harapan at hindi sila pwede sa harapan. Talagang nasa likod lang sila. Lahat lang po ng private vehicles ang kasama dito sa RA 11229. And personally sa akin po talaga, mahalaga yung RA 11229 kasi yun nga, yung sinabi ko kanina, na-experience ko po ang yung road crash na yan. Yung road crash na yan, and thankful ako na, kumbaga, okay kami. Walang nangyari sa akin. Yung anak ko, well, ako, nagkabukol ako ng slight, pero hindi naman siya major. Tapos yung asawa ko rin, parang sumakit yung mga leeg namin. Pero okay naman sa CT scan. Tapos yung anak ko, kumakain pa siya ng ng parang crinkles, kumakain siya. Tapos pagkita ko, ang problema niya lang, sumabog yung crinkles niya, pero siya, okay na okay siya. Parang yun yung pinaka, na-realize ko na, salamat sa car seat! Paano kung wala yung car seat? Taliit lang katawan niya. Hindi ko na alam, kasi yung phone ko, umabot na sa labas. Para sa mga parents na katulad din namin, at sa lahat ng mga nanonood sa atin ngayon ng mga momshi at popshi din, syempre, ang gusto talaga natin, mabigay natin yung best para sa anak natin, para protektahan sila, di ba? So, gusto natin i-make sure na healthy sila, safety sila, sa loob at labas man ng bahay, kung saan man sila nakasakay, tsaka, kumbaga, sundin natin ito pag talagang na-implement na. At hindi natin basta sasabihin lang, hindi, sundin mo yan. Magtulungan. Yun lang ang hino-hope ko. I hope na magtulungan lahat. Oo, magkakaroon ng mga reklamo or sabi-sabi sa mga pero kesa mas magsagutan, magtulungan na lang tayo dahil isipin natin ito ay para sa ating mga anak. Finally.
So ayun, no, we saw that si Miss Jolina Magdangal's call for parents to also advocate for the use of child car seats stems from her own family's experience of being involved in a road crash. And really, we're glad to hear from the parents that we know are also tuning in to our press conference today. This law really is for the safety of your children on Philippine roads. So,
finally,
at this point, we'll open up the floor for question and answer. Since we have Sir Bob with us, Sir Bob, I'll ask you to unmute. Hi, Sir Bob.
Yes, good.
Yes.
I'm sorry again
it's fine, Sir Bob. And since yun nga po, hindi natuloy yung discussion mo, I'd like to start the Q&A by asking you, how will enforcement of this new law be different from enforcing the other laws that the LTO has already been implementing? Because right now, diba, this law will deal with children.
Yes.
What do the guidelines say? What do the guidelines say? Yung kaninang gusto mo dapat i-share sa ating lahat.
Well, we have the LTO is concerned with regards to the deputation of practice, of course, and we are fortunate to have you, the ImagineLaw, to help us. There were already trainings conducted for the trainers training, for the enforcement. And we, as I always emphasize this, that as far as LTO is concerned, we try to develop a protocol to make it easier for us to enforce the law. Now, like for example, there's a similar law that addresses almost the same concern. This is the seatbelt law. And for the information of all the participants, that's the number one violation that we enforce since 2016, because that's visual. And what we're doing right now is that we're trying to develop this protocol that will help us also properly enforce the RA 11229, sourcing from our experience in the enforcement and implementation of the seatbelt law. Now, in line with that, we have I briefed the ASIC with regards to the other components that needs to be addressed. Like for example, we have to finalize the administrative order on the 10th law, because for the information of everybody, some cars have dark tints, so it will be harder for us because the enforcement of this law is visual. We have to see if the child is on the car seat. So those are the things that we try to come up with. In line also with our enforcement of other laws. Like for example, we have developed a protocol on the inspection of motor vehicles. What we call it the 360 degrees inspection. So we go around the motor vehicle and inspect the motor vehicles. And the Republic Act 4136 allows us to plug down a motor vehicle to inspect that motor vehicle. So more or less, those are the things that we need to address. Of course, the deputation, just like Republic Act 10586, naka-specify naman doon sa IRR, sa the law, IRR also, which agencies will be deputized. So we will be conducting deputation. The difference between other laws that we enforce is that this law is akin to Republic Act 10586 in the sense that we have to develop protocols to properly enforce the law. So like what we did in 10586. And of course, we are fortunate that ImagineLaw donated to LTO, including all the regional offices and the central office, the different types of child car seats. So we'll be able to use that in our training program to demonstrate, of course, to help the layos understand the different requirements of the law.
Thank you so much, Sir Bob. So we know that the LTO has actually been preparing for this, no? Nabanggit ni Sir Bob na nagkaroon ng trainings for the fitters. I also talked about the enforcement training. Aside from that, Sir Bob also talked about developing the guidelines for enforcement and how the fitters will operate fitting stations. So I really hope that also answers the question from, I think, TV Patrol. Really, the question was, paano po naghahanda ang gobyerno sa implementasyon nito? Though so far, we've shown you how the DTI has issued the mandatory product certification regulation and how the LTO has been undergoing training. Also, yes, sir.
Sorry,
Go
I'm
ahead,
sorry
Sir
to cut
Bob.
you. I forgot to mention that in the initial phase of the enforcement, we will be distributing IEC materials. So the first phase is for information. We will be informing the parents or the drivers of those motor vehicles that are covered motor vehicles of the requirements of the law. So we'll be distributing IEC materials for that. And in fact, we are now in the process of coming up with these materials, the flyers, that we call it, to be distributed in the initial implementation or enforcement of the law. Thank you. I'm sorry for cutting you.
No worries, Sir Bob. And the next question is also from you. For you. When will apprehensions and fines begin? This comes from Vera Files. So, Sir Bob?
Yeah, I'm glad that you passed me through Robert, your consultant. He advised. I like his advice that we come up with a timeline. So probably between 3 months to 6 months. in the initial implementation, then we start also already enforcing the law.
Okay, thank you, Sir Bob. So what he mentioned, Robert, that's Robert Susanj, the Slovenian Global Road Safety Partnership expert who conducted the enforcement training for our LTO enforcers. Meron din na naman tayong tanong. Handa po ba ang mga commuter kasi mahal po ang mga car seats? Ano po ang aasahan ng mga motorista? Magkakahulihan na po ba? So I think the second question has been answered. Let's talk about the first. Sir Bob, do you want to answer or do you want me to also?
Attorney Daphne, please.
Okay. So yung tanong po, handa po ba ang mga commuter, mga gumagamit ng pampubliko nating sasakyan? And the answer is the law, Republic Act number 11229, mandates drivers to secure children in covered motor vehicles. Ano ang ibig sabihin ng covered vehicle sa ilalim ng batas? If we look at the definition of terms, covered vehicles so far are private motor vehicles. So these are the cars that are privately owned or those also being rented under a lease. Why? Alam naman po natin ang design ng ating mga PUV, ang ating mga jeep, ang ating mga bus. Hindi naman po talaga by design pwedeng ikabit ang child car seat. But that is not to say that child passengers in public utility vehicles will be left unprotected. Also under the law, the Department of Transportation is mandated to study the use and feasibility of using child car seats in PUVs. So if they find that they should recommend this, so kasi may iba naman tayong sasakyan pampubliko tulad ng FX na pwede naman ikabit ang child car seat, then the DOTR can make that recommendation to Congress. And if Congress can have that amendment, then they will. So I hope that answers your question. So, Sir Bob, there's another question for you. Can we get a timeline what will happen on Feb 2? Magsisimula na po ba yung pag-impose ng fines? Sir Bob, go ahead, answer nyo na lang po ulit.
Hindi po. Kasi ang initial phase, just like Republic Act 10666, Safety of Children on Board Motorcycles, we came up with icing materials. And this is, enforcement is not only about apprehension, by the way. It also covers information dissemination as well as warnings. Republic Act 4136 allow us to warn. So instead of issuing initially a TOP for the violation or a show cause order, we'll be on the warning mode as well as information dissemination.
Thank you, sir.
And probably, as Robert mentioned before, we'll come up with a timeline, say between 3 months to 6 months, and that's when we will start our enforcement or apprehension of violators.
Sige. Thank you po, Sir Bob. At yun na nga po, may tanong po na I think nasagot na ng ni Sir Bob. Yung may nahuli na po ba kayong nag-violate nito mula nang naisa batas ito? Wala pa po. Tama,
Wala
Sir
pa,
Bob.
kasi February pa ang enforcement yan.
Yung start ng mandatory
Next week.
compliance starts next week.
Yes.
So that's how we wanted to differentiate how implementation of the law is different from mandatory compliance. Implementation, yung mga isinagawa na ng ating mga government agency tulad ng DTI LTO for the past year. Mandatory compliance starts next week. There's another question, actually. I think this is from our Facebook live stream. Is a child car seat an accessory? Hindi pa ba sapat ang normal na upuan sa likod? I'd like to point back, and maybe our viewer was not able to tune in to my presentation on why a child car seat is necessary to protect a child. Basically, ang physiological makeup ng bata, maliit pa ang kanilang katawan. Hindi pa sila kasya sa adult-sized na seatbelt. Hindi pa sapat na proteksyon ang adult-sized na seatbelt para sa mga batang 0 to 12 years old. So sana po yun ang sagot sa katanungan. Another question is, paano po kung likas na malaki ang bata? Paano kung hindi kasya sa child car seat? Hindi ba pwede sa likod kahit seatbelt naman? This comes from a parent, Judith Lagarde. Sir Bob, do you want to answer? Or
Please Attorney Daphne,
Sige
you
po.
may...
Okay, sige po. So, Miss Judith, thank you for your question. Actually, the exception is found in the law itself. As we mentioned, only a child who is 0 to 12 years old, who is of a height of 4 feet and 11 below, will be required to be properly secured in a child car seat. Anong ibig sabihin ito? Ang sinasabi niyo pong likas na malaki na bata, mas matangkad sa 4 feet 11 inches, pwede na siyang masecure sa adult-sized seatbelt na wala nang gamiting child car seat. Pero bawal pa rin siyang umupo sa harap ng sasakyan. Kailangan nasa rear seat pa rin because that affords the best protection for the child. So, I hope that answers your question. I'll still read. I have questions for the DTI. May I call on Engineer Kim? Hi, Engineer.
Good morning, ma'am.
Morning po. Ready po for questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, here we go. For DTI, how will you regulate online sellers of the child car seats and ensure that they will comply with necessary product certification?
Actually, ma'am, how to regulate the online seller. So we have the FTEB for that one. And then for another one is we have the ICC sticker. So actually we are encouraging consumer or the buyers to check the product if the product have the ICC stickers or the PS mark or a PS mark safety PS safety mark in that on that product. So um, when the product itself has either ICC or the PS mark, so they can assure that that product is certified by the BPS. Also, for the ICC or for the imported products, we have the as I have discussed earlier, we have the ICC verification system that can be downloaded on the Google Play and the App Store. So any consumer or anyone can download that app to check if the product is certified by the PTS. That
Sige.
is
Okay, thank you, Engineer Kim. And as a follow-up, we have a question naman from Instagram. So a blogger from Instagram is wondering if a child car seat purchased in the US can be used in the Philippines because this child car seat will not have the sticker required by the Philippines.
car seat, child car seat imported. So all imported products shall undergo ICC applications through our online application system, which is the Product Certification Information System or the Information Management System or the PCIMS. So all importers shall seek approval from the BPS or certification from the BPS.
So I think, thank you for that answer, Engineer Kim. Ito ata bago pa hindi siya imported pero nabili na po. And I think Sir Bob is ready to answer on what the LTO will be doing to clear the prior acquired CRS. Tama po, Sir Bob?
Yes. LTO, as far as the law is concerned, is tasked to perform three functions. The enforcement aspect, the inspection of used car seats, and the other one is for the accreditation fitting station. For the inspection of your used car seats, we'll follow the guidelines with regards to the compliance for the standards. Yun yung UN Regulation 44/129, as well as, of course, we have private motor vehicle inspection centers already nationwide that will be included in the requirements for the inspection of motor vehicles. And of course, our enforcement will also require the inspection of these motor vehicles, of the car seat inside the motor vehicles. So used car seats may be allowed if they are not expired, and if there are no problems with regards to the it's in compliance with the safety standards, no? Walang mga nasisirang, hindi nasira yung mga some of the components of the car seats. So that will be subject to inspection. Now, LTO will be certifying those inspected by LTO. So we will come up with, let's say, as probably a certificate that the car seat has been inspected, and even though it was purchased prior to for the effectivity of the law, it passes our inspection requirements, so it will be allowed to be used.
Thank you, Sir Bob. So I hope naging klaro sa ating audience members, no, ang prior acquired CRS or child car seats that were purchased before February 2021 will have to undergo the clearance process from the LTO. So we have another question for the DOTR and DTI, but I think since DTI lang po ang nandito, Engineer Kim, this is for you. Under Section 28 of the Implementing Rules and Regulations, the DTI is tasked to develop measures to make a child car seat more accessible. Have there been schemes developed so far?
We have as I have mentioned, we have PS and ICC scheme for the verification of the CRS or the child restraint system. So for the accessibility, it will develop measures to make serious. For the accessibility, it is stated in the section 12 of IRR of RA 11229. It is stated in the section 12 that the TTI BPS shall publish manufacturers, brands and brands and models of the CRS that meets our compliance.
So actually, Engineer Kim, that's one of the follow-up questions from UP Manila. Does the DTI already have a list of legitimate distributors or sellers of child car seats for both physical and online stores? If so, will this list be available to the public?
As of now, we don't have any list of approved CRS system, but we have been receiving importers, or we have been receiving applications for the CRS. But as of now, we currently we don't have a list of approved CRS.
Thank you po. We have a question from Miss Mara. It's challenging to buy child car seats for those who own old models of cars. Paano po ang installation nito? Since car seats in the market are geared towards newer car models that are ready for child car seat installation. Sir Bob, do you want to answer?
Yes, that's why that's one of the function, the main functions of LTO to accredit fitting stations. These fitters will be installing through the proper anchorage points, the CRS, depending upon the types of anchorage points, and of course with its compliance to UN Regulation 44 and 129. So we have guidelines on that. Like for example, for vehicles with lower anchors, the CRS must be anchored using the lats for the lower anchor and by anchoring the top tethers. And for vehicles without lower anchors, the seatbelt must be anchored by the threading the belt through the back of the CRS and securing it using the seatbelt lats and anchoring the top tether. So this will be part of the trainings that will be conducted for our, actually they have already initial training for that for our fitters. So they will be properly guided so that those old model cars will be fitted for the properly fitted for with anchorage points.
Thank you, Sir Bob. So yung sinasabi ni Sir Bob na nag-training, ang tinatawag natin na Type 1 fitters. Sila ang equipped to give the public knowledge and assistance to install child car seats in the car. I think yung tanong din po ni Miss Mara is, how about the older vehicles? So to be very clear, Sir Bob already talked about how child car seats are installed. It's through anchorage points. This can be your ISOFIX or your lower tether system. But there's also that misconception, as long as a car is properly equipped with a 3-point seat belt, ito yung seat belt natin na may shoulder, sash, pati lap belt, you can use that seat belt to secure the child car seat into your motor vehicle. And actually, required po na may seatbelt ang lahat ng ating motor vehicles. If you are unaware, under our Seatbelts Use Act, the LTO is allowed to refuse renewal of registration of vehicles na hindi pa equipped with this 3-point seatbelt. But of course, there's also the inescapable reality na may mga sasakyan pa rin sa ating mga kalsada na walang 3-point seatbelt. Dito pumapasok ang tinatawag natin na Type 2 fitters. Type 2 fitters and still the LTO and relevant government agencies are still in the development phase to develop this training. Ang type 2 fitters are certified to retrofit ang mga vehicles for these anchorage points. Pero that will come later on. For now, we have been training the type 1 fitters. So I hope that answers your question. We just have time for 2 more questions as we are running out of time. From Miss Jasmine, this is for Engineer Kim of DTI. Is the supply of child car seat enough, since prices of these products may shoot up given that they're already expensive? What is the Department of Trade and Industry going to do to regulate this? Go ahead, Engineer. Nakamute po kayo, ma'am. Sorry. Sige.
Okay, so for the car seat supply in the Philippines, currently we don't have any data yet, but they can email BPS at dti.gov.ph to inquire for the data of this one. And for the prices of the car seats, it is not been regulated by the BPS. Miss
Thank you, Engineer Kim, for that answer. I hope that answers Miss Jasmine. So definitely, it's just a start, no, of the implementation. Implementation will come still in the next few weeks, months, and of course, years. Lastly, we have a question for Sir Bob. I think nasagot na rin niya po to, but let's just ask it again for the sake of our audience. For Sir Bob, gaano po katagal yung warning system? When will fines be imposed?
Okay. First of all, yung warning po is part of our apprehension process. That's provided for under Republic 4136. So, wala kaming limit sa warning. Pero for the purposes of enforcing this law, our timeline will be between 3 months to 6 months. And then that's when we will probably issue either a show cause order or a TOP for that particular violation.
Thank you, Sir Bob. And I hope with that, assurance from our Deputy Director for Law Enforcement of the LTO, that answers your questions about the timeline. And really, Sir Bob is talking about the guidelines that we have. We just have one last question from Ria Muhi. Kailan magsisimula ang certification process sa old child car seat? Yung clearance process for yung prior acquired CRS. Sir Bob?
Okay. So, as I have mentioned, that's one of our major tasks to be accomplished. Now, we need to train our inspectors on that. So that we are in the process of doing that, and we are very grateful to ImagineLaw for helping us in these 3 aspects of our functions and duties and responsibilities. So we will be working together with ImagineLaw so that we can come up already with the guidelines for the inspection as soon as possible. Thank you for the question.
So thank you, everyone. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today's question and answer program. And at this point, I'd like to thank my fellow panelists, Sir Bob Valera of the LTO and Engineer Kim Palmas of the DTI. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Attorney Daphne. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Kim. We'll close with Miss Chi Liquisha of Vera Files. Miss Chi, are you there?
Yes, hi, I'm here.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay, so we are happy to.
Hi, Miss Chi. May we ask you to share your video?
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, where is it?
No worries.
All right. So just to say that we're happy that this finally took place. We've been wanting to do a forum like this, a press conference like this, but because of the pandemic, everyone had to stay home. So now that there's a date, it's February 2, and we should be ready with all this from our end, stories to inform the public about this new law. I mean, the implementation of this law. So we'd like to thank everybody who took part. Of course, Attorney Bob, Engineer Kim, Attorney Daphne, and all the other journalists, including some of our road safety fellows. So we're happy again, as I said, to take part in this initiative. So we'll be here, we'll be producing stories on CRS, and not just CRS, but on all other aspects of road safety. So thank you very much again. Keep safe, everyone, whether at home or on the road. So if you're on the road, just make sure you're buckled up and you observe the speed limits, of course. And if you're traveling with a kid, if it's already going to be allowed in the next few months or weeks, then make sure um, they are in car seats that are appropriate to their height, their weight, and their age. And of course, that they should have the PSP marks and all other standards that are necessary. So thank you, everybody, and have a good day and have a good weekend.
Thank you so much,
Thank-
Ms. Chi.
Thank you, Ma'am
That
Chi.
brings our press conference to a close. For all of us who joined us today, thank you so much for making time. The conversation on road safety for child passengers does not end here. Let's continue that conversation. Please use the hashtags, hashtag RA11229, hashtag BuckleUpKidsPH, and we'll see you on the different platforms. Let's give this law our full support as adhering to the call of the parents that we heard from, Ms. Regine, Ms. Jolina. We see that our government is working to really ensure that our child passengers are safe on Philippine roads. I am Attorney Daphne Marcelo, Project Manager of ImagineLaw's Road Safety Project, and I have been your host and moderator for today's press conference. Dahan-dahan sa daan, everyone. Stay safe and don't forget to buckle up your kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Daphne. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Bob. Thank you, Engineer Kim.
Thank you, attorney.
Chits.